This is the 80s Show on iHeartRadio.
Say ho, ho, say ho, 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 let's start the show, let's start the show. Come on, let's go, come on, let's go. Say ho, ho, say ho, whoa, ho, whoa. Let's start the show, let's start the show, let's start the show, let's start the show.
So, I would know what the hell I wanted to talk to you about a lot more easily if the freaking internet in this place would... Oh, yeah, look at that. Yeah, that's definitely what I wanted to do. Wait while we log you out. Oh, no, wait while we log you in. It's Monday with a freaking bump.
Biatch.
Yeah, tell me about it. Oh, I guess I'm not allowed to get into my prep today. What a fine establishment I work for. Glad everything's tuned up the way it's supposed to be here in major market radio land. Freaking great. All right, so it would seem that it is not only Monday, it is Monday with a bump. And for that reason, let me ask you what you did with your weekend. What'd you do? Anything good? Did you, by any chance... I'm just going to whip my phone out here because the computer doesn't work. So instead, to get into my stuff, I'm just going to go through my phone because, you know, that's the pristine work environment that's been created for me. But what did you do this weekend? How was everything? It's days like today that the weekend becomes that much more important to yours truly. Why? How? Well, there's portions of the week where I start feeling like I'm going to stab someone. This portion of the week, this particular week, managed to start at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, so it doesn't look good for my coworkers for the rest of the foreseeable work week. No, it does not. But there's something that I did this past weekend just gone by, which I always try and do. I went and I sat by the ocean. How much have you done that in your life? I mean, obviously, it requires being within driving distance of an ocean if you want to make that your weekend thing. But how much have you done that? See, there's something distinctly restorative about watching the waves crash in and crash out. It's funny, you go to Southern California, and you deal with, I don't know, restrictions, taxes, all these things that you can and cannot do. Crazy high cost of living. And you wonder why anybody lives there. You really do. Like when you look at it on paper, you look at Southern California and go, well, it makes absolutely no sense to live there. There's zero freedom to do anything you want to. It's so unbelievably regulated. And the taxes are so inhumanely high that it's almost impossible to live there. Yet people are willing to live out of their vans so they can be by the ocean. Why? Well, like I said, when I get to the middle of the week, sometimes the very beginning of the week, I tend to feel a little stabby. Yet there's something about watching waves go in and watching them come out that, like I said, has a restorative quality. It's almost like a reset for you. And after 15 minutes of doing that, you see how Southern California people happen. Where you're just like, oh man, nothing really matters. All that stuff that I was all bent out of shape during the week about, that's small potatoes. That's sweating the small stuff, and I don't need to do that, and I don't need to waste my energy doing that. And on the one hand, you might call it sort of like the anesthetists of a culture. You might call these people that live in that situation blind to how they're being robbed and how they're being taken advantage of and how their way of life is just, well, on paper, doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. But then you see how they go through life and you start to wonder, maybe they know something I don't. I don't know. That's up for debate. But I do know that if you get an opportunity to do this over the weekend, you don't have to be around waves. It can be any other type of enormity of nature. And I'm not some hippy-dippy mountaineer type. I don't like granola. I don't like hiking. I'm one of the last great true indoorsmen. My idea of taking in nature, I'd like to do it from the inside of an air-conditioned vehicle. Preferably only walk places that are paved. And I'd like to take in nature that way, if at all possible. Like I said, one of the last great true indoorsmen. But if you find yourself able to, I don't know, maybe it's a humongous tree near where you live. Maybe it's something a little bigger, like a national park or the Grand Canyon or something of that nature. If you have an opportunity to do so, if you're like me, if you get to the point during the week where you're ready to maim, kill, ruin, and stab coworkers just because you don't like the looks on their faces, it helps to get out and look at something that illustrates the enormity of nature. It gives you perspective. It gives you an appreciation of everything in this world that is not you, which is most of it. Some would probably say that's close to prayer, even if you don't believe in anything. Having an appreciation in everything in the world that is not you. I think when doing it right, that's as close to prayer as someone can get. Recognizing the world around you and your teeny, tiny, but somehow essential place in it. And the wonder that the world outside of you is infinite. That's a piece of perspective that can make times like this, Monday morning, when my freaking computer won't boot up, significantly easier to take.
I think that I would feel better if I could smash all your fingers so you could never touch a guitar again and make that.
I feel better now.
That's not what the word music means. That's not how you use it. You gave it a shot. You tried your best. Your best just sucked without enough. So hang it up. Just give it up. It's time somebody.
iHeartRadio goes one-on-one with Jimmy Page to discuss why the acoustic guitar really was the foundation behind many of Led Zeppelin's albums.
It was guitar driven. It was guitar driven. I think that's quite apparent throughout all of this. You know, when we're revisiting and listening to this stuff, and quite surprising for a lot of people. It was also the first, 4 albums were written on acoustic. You can hear the acoustic with "Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You." I mean, that's very radical compared to what anybody else was doing around that sort of time. But it's acoustic, and there's acoustic on "Ramble On," etc. You know, on the second album, third album. It's the same guitar that I'm writing it on. It gets really played a lot on the third album, and it's the same guitar that plays "Stairway." So you can see the acoustic guitar was quite the bed underneath this, although it's still 6 strings, and my various approaches to guitar was still shown within the writing process and what was presented to the band. And okay, this is what we're doing, you know.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Jimmy Page and all your favorite artists.
Tantrums to find out what their success means to them.
Our entire experience of being together has been a dream come true. A lot of bands don't get this opportunity. So every day we sit in gratitude, you know, because we could still be singing at the Hotel Cafe. You know what I mean? So we feel very fortunate. We hope that we inspire other artists that are on the come up to do the same thing, to never say no, to work, to
not giving up.
Yeah, not getting out of line and just, you know, holding it down for themselves and their love for their craft.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Fits and the Tantrums and all your favorite artists.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving your music a savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a party better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving your music a savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a party better than me. Hey, you, what's that sound? I'm coming so loud from your radio dial. AD, be getting down when you're rocking the jams. Here I am, going back once again. I'm ruling all city like a
So, today, this Monday edition of the show, it's an interesting Monday. I mean, you know, obviously it sucks big swinging hairy animal distended things that I can't mention by name on the radio and remain employed, as do all Mondays. But today on the show, it's an interesting one because, well, what's tomorrow? Tomorrow's election day. Yep. And there's some interesting bits and pieces of campaigning that I found around the country that have made me want to kind of divorce myself from the political and electoral process in this country even more, which is so funny because you talk like that and people go, oh, anarchist, you're living on the edge. No, I don't have a ton of belief that any of this means anything whatsoever. And if you do, not to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but delicious Kool-Aid you're drinking, isn't it? Also, we'll talk about, I spent a lot of time railing on this show about technology and how it might not be the greatest idea and how it's sort of slowing us down when it comes to connecting as actual human beings and how it's sort of, well, I view technology as somehow complicit in the retardation of us as a species, ironically enough. Smart people making smart things that in turn make us significantly dumber. Yet there was a wonderful instance of technology working out the way it was supposed to that happened this past weekend, just gone by, involving a kidnapped child. And we'll get into that. Also, your weirdest sexual fantasies. I want you to think about one of those for a second. How do they go? What do they involve? Do they make you feel dirty? Do they make you feel ashamed? Do they make you feel like, oh, that's something I really shouldn't talk to anyone about? Well, here's the thing. You are, in fact, as it turns out, jaw-droppingly normal, and I'll tell you why shortly. Right now, though, let's take a look at the events of today in our segment, My Witness News, in no way, shape, or form. Fair, certainly not balanced. Funkhauser, A, how are you? How was your weekend? And what is going on in the world?
I had one of those, a weekend.
A weekend? Did you get the proper weekend recharge, restore, rejuice out of it that you're supposed to get out of your weekend, or did you run a bunch of errands?
No, because it was Halloween, right?
Uh-huh.
And at the last second, I decided to go out. I wore a raincoat, so I went as prepared because it was going to rain. And then the fallback clock thing just totally screwed me up. And I said, what year is it? What time is it? It was light when I woke up at 5:30 this morning.
Yeah.
So I'm a little left of center, but, it's all good.
Yeah.
I got some downtime.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad to hear it. Did you actually dress up? Did you go out?
Yeah, well, I went, he's a little bit. I mean, at the last second, we decided to go out and just see, we were going to go to that Santa Monica Boulevard fiasco where they have 100,000 people in West Hollywood all dressed up and stuff, but we ended up going to, like, Hollywood and Highland, and I just dressed up. I put a raincoat on. That's it. And I went as prepared. And
that's good. What did the lady go as?
She went as Amelie. You know that movie, Amelie?
Amelie?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Did it involve like a little pixie wig or something like that?
Yeah, she went as that. And it was good times.
Like, I say I know Amelie, and it makes me sound like I'm a fan of, like, independent classic films, but really, I just keep seeing it in my Netflix queue with a picture of that chick that your girlfriend went as on the cover of it, being like, you liked this, you might also like that. I'm like, no, next. So I've never actually seen it, but I know what the girl looks like from it. I'm not nearly as cultured as I just made myself out to be. I felt I was falsely representing myself, and I had to fess up. What's going on in the world?
Well, researchers say the Spice Girls Wannabe is the catchiest song of all time.
Which is not necessarily a good thing. I mean, Ebola is catchy. It doesn't mean that you want it. At least it gives us a definitive answer to the never-ending, perpetual, persistent question, why do the terrorists hate us? That's why. What else?
There's a rumor that Tom Cruise is dating Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah. I would have a feeling that the two have bonded over their mutual desire to give me never-ending punchlines for this show. I was like, oh my God, that's comedic gold. I can't think of anything right now, but I'm gonna. What else?
Well, Guns N' Roses keyboard player Dizzy Reed, he says the band is in the process of finishing up some new music.
Right, which means that if you are currently alive, you won't be by the time it comes out. And like that last thing, this is why you can't leave it so long between records. It's just when you do, the level of expectation that's built up around your release, like there was for the Chinese Democracy, the last Guns N' Roses album, which, by the way, was released exclusively through Best Buy. They have so much stock left of that thing. Like, they're now officially coasters and paperweights on every employee at Best Buy's desk. Yeah, when you build up that kind of expectation around something to the tune of like, hey, this is one of the greatest bands in the world, and they haven't done anything in 20 years, there's no way you're ever going to hit the mark.